Yes, it's the lesser goldfinch.
That's the name?
You set me up, didn't you?
No, is it? Is it that the name?
The one that we had in our
The
background?
lesser gold. That is his.
It's that or the great tip.
It'd be the yellow one, wouldn't it?
Just hit silence. What's that? It'd be the other one. The other tip?
The other one.
I'm speaking ornithogically right now.
Wait, well, that's the what? Is it the other tit? Is that ornithological?
Welcome to the Byronic Compendium episode 16.
Okay, so look.
16, right? I'm just about to find out. You see how we, as I was telling Byron, I have this meticulous setup to every episode. I don't know what song we're on. I haven't got the video
all that
put
wonderful
up.
artwork. Yeah, so it's a wonderful spring day. Actually, great skies of cerulean.
I watched that last night.
What?
Galaxy Quest.
Did they use the word cerulean?
Yeah. It's in there somewhere. And also they have the beryllium spheres.
So I really like the name cerulean. Actually, there's another thing on YouTube that explains about how hard it was to make Galaxy Quest, and I guess it came out around 9/11, and so it sort of got lost in the in sort of the
incredible
that
funny movie. That's one of the ones I could watch over and over.
It's a brilliant movie. It's a brilliant. That Alan Rickman is just worth the price of admission.
Yes, sure. His deadpan delivery of the science officer is the best.
I thought I'd just tell you.
Somewhere we're around here. So we'll figure it out when we get to that point.
I just thought, because you always tell me like sort of like what interests me and like what like why I still do what I continually do, and like I've had a couple of sleepless nights this last week. It's been such a joyous week for me musically. So I just finished Zip Zap and Z last weekend. We went through that and
see episode 15.
Yeah, and that 15? Was kind of a. That was a thing about monsters, but it was kind of a dark, but it was fun and dark to do. But at the time, I've been sort of going through this hard drive of older tracks, and I came across one that sounded very exuberant to me, very buoyant, and it's a combination of the track itself. It's very up-tempo track. And it's got some acoustic guitars on it, and I think it was recorded at your studio. I think it's me playing for sure, and it's me playing the Martin guitar, and so it's a beautiful sounding song. And when I sort of
this is like 2007 to 2014.
Yeah, so it was done maybe 10 years ago. But the thing that reminds me when I hear such an exuberant track with a beautiful sounding acoustic guitar. Was the song "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles, and how that sort of got done. George Harrison was in his garden with Eric Clapton, and they were just coming out of a sort of a bad winter and stuff like that. So in context with sort of us...
You mean a regular winter?
Yeah, a regular winter. Well, we're coming out of our winter, but... and it's conflated with what we're presently going through with the pandemic.
By the way... May 3rd, we're still under coronavirus lockdown. So back to Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah, so everybody's been locked down, and it was a cold month last month, and it was very sort of gray skies and stuff like that. And so when I heard this song a couple of weeks ago, just as I was finishing off Zip Zap and Z, it just reminded me of how beautiful, it just reminded me of a spring song, just again, the acoustic guitar just sounded like $1,000,000, but also it had a tapestry of vocals on it, background vocals, and it was a combination of a gentleman that came to you in your studio. You don't remember him. His first name was Milton. He was a young lad. He wanted to do a song or two, and you gave him some studio time, and you gave him me, and him and I worked on some stuff together.
I remember that happening, but that's about as deep as my recollection goes.
Right, so this is, I think, the song that I was doing for him. I think he wanted, I think he was happy with what we were doing, but I think he was looking for something more of a traditional sort of songwriter. So maybe people from Sweden that were doing pop songs or something like that. But I don't think I had sort of come up with sort of or had it all fleshed out for him. It didn't take him long to get disappointed in what he was doing and stuff like that, and the way I worked might not have been to his liking, or I don't think he had any previous experience behind a microphone. But we did a lot of vocals and stuff like that, and so I used it with some of my own vocals and Susie, and I think I was trying to create sort of this Pet Sounds tapestry in the background. There's a lot of buzz and buzz and sort of trading vocals back and forth and stuff like that. So I think I had sort of left the song, and it was sort of sat there until I sort of resurrected it. And so when I resurrected it, it had this beautiful sound to it with the acoustic guitar and all these background vocals. And it at the same time, my brother had emailed me a few weeks ago, and my niece Emily is 17, and her life has just been completely reversed. I don't think she's taking it as well, and it's very understandable. But I mean, her prom has been canceled. Just basically, her life has been put on hold. So it's been very frustrating. A very frustrating time for her. So it seemed very logical. So this is part of the things about sort of doing songs and stuff like that. It seemed very logical that I should do something maybe lyrically. I didn't have any lyrics for this this instrumental piece that I had, but it sounded like a spring thing, and I wanted to sort of convey maybe in the back of my mind, maybe I'd do something for her. It's going to get better, Emily. It's going to get better. You know, it can't get much worse, as John Lennon used to say.
My favorite Beatles song.
Absolutely. So in this song, I immediately remembered, so 10 years later, I immediately remembered sort of the bridge part, and it was a bunch of ninth chords, and it was sort of bell tones I was doing, and it reminded me of being in the stage band. So I can hear my keyboard part, and I just sort of, on Monday, so it'd be 6 days ago, Monday, I just started laying some vocals down. Emily, it's going to be okay, it's going to be all right, and I was just sort of in the bridge mode. I wasn't thinking about the verses at all. I was actually just going to release the song with just a bit of vocals. It sounded like such a nice instrumental. Again, Here Comes the Sun, I think it's so gorgeous. It's almost like the perfect song with the acoustic guitars, and
it sounds like what it is. It sounds Here Comes the Sun. It's the only song I know that's capoed at the 7th fret.
Absolutely, it's a religious experience.
Like I'm wondering how you come up with the riff, or was the caper already there and you just started dinking around on open chords, or did he write it and went, put it up here, it sounds bright and airy?
I'm still gobsmacked every time I hear that song about how wonderful and beautiful and joyous it is. So on the Monday or Tuesday of this week, I had sort of this vague sort of vision, and every day I'm sort of playing with it. I'm sort of massaging it to get to something that feels right. It still doesn't feel right. It's sort of got some vague vocals. However, Thursday I get home, and my first thing I always do after I get home from work is I listen to the previous day's work I had done musically, fresh ears.
Right.
So I go listen to it on Thursday, and I listened to these open verses, and all of a sudden it came to me, and I guess I was just sort of floating around it, but I said I should sing these verses like I'm emailing Emily and just saying, Emily, hang in there, my love, it's going to be okay. And people don't know I'm singing it to my niece, who I love very much, but people could imply it's just to a girl named like Emily, right? And
well, in the future, musicologists will be dissecting this, going, well, the first song we heard on Bite Down Hard, his first actual album.
Right.
This is not Emily.
Right. So it's to me.
And she would have been born even.
No. She wasn't born.
So it's complete coincidence.
I guess I don't know, but this is sort of part of sort of living in the moment of doing a song, right? Like you just hear, and it just seems to sort of come together. So on Thursday, it came together for me. I wrote the verse like right. I wasn't even when I woke up that morning, I didn't expect to sing the verse, and I had no expectations. I get to the studio, and it just like it dropped in my head. Just sing the verse like you're like it's an email saying, "Don't worry about it. I can feel it. It's coming. It's coming. It's going to get better. It's going to get better." And just sing it like that. And I just turned 3 buttons, and off I went, and I looped it 3 times, and I even sang a chorus like, "It's coming. I can feel it. It's coming," and it all just dropped in. I was shaking it. It almost fit in. Like, this is the excitement I get. And it was just
like... And you didn't bring it today.
Well, because I'm almost... I think I can finish it off this week. And I was just so excited by it. I couldn't sleep Thursday night. I just couldn't believe that...
Maybe this can be the anthem of coronavirus.
Well, I had no expectations. Somebody said, "Stupid. This is how you should be singing the song." This is because I've been with it for 3 days, and yeah, so this is the excitement I get. And Friday, I go to work. I can't but think about the whole thing. I hardly got any sleep. I go back and listen to what I sang Thursday. It was almost perfect. I put the whole band up, and I just sort of put some echo on this thing. And with the tapestry of all the background vocals against my one lead vocal, I'm going, "I can feel it. It's coming, Emily. Here we go. It's only going to get better for you." Although sort of an easy trope to sing about, but considering what we're under, it was very easy, and it just made all the sense. So yeah, since that day, I've been so excited. I almost wanted to bring it and play it to you, what I already had, because...
we all know that feeling. We want you to hear exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, and so I've just spent 3-4 days on cloud 9. I can't believe how joyous it is for me to hear this, and it sounds like a million bucks.
There's a word of warning for all you people out there, non-creative, or sorry, people that don't think you're artistic. Go out and buy a little, digital to audio interface and buy a little keyboard. Start dicking around. You realize, this creative stuff is a great way to pass the time during coronavirus.
Woohoo! Is there a virus going on? Wouldn't know about it. Yeah, I don't. I
want to ask. So, it's obvious that as a creative person, when you're coming up lyrically with stuff, do you challenge yourself to get a perspective on telling a story, or are you just trying to capture a feeling in a bunch of words and throw it down and move them around? And
well, I'm trying to capture a feeling to my and it seemed like such an honest response to me right now. I feel for it, and I want to do something for it, and I know I got this nice little song in my back pocket.
Most songs you will write and just sing as the artist singing, but this one you had a specific intent for the...
Well, I have more of a specific intent on this song. I think a lot of stuff I do for myself, but I have a specific audience for this one, and yeah, I hope it makes her day better. Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to sort of... so I'm thinking about sort of like the video right now, and that's what I was asking you about. I'd like to sort of stuff the end of the video with bouncy castles and rainbows and
well, now I'm gonna put on my psychiatrist hat again. You're saying that you do this song and you hope it makes her feel better. Of course we do hope it makes her feel better. Does that mean that who are the rest of your songs trying to make feel better?
Well, it's a good question. It's out there, and hopefully somebody would give me great pleasure.
No, I'm talking about besides this song, all the rest of your artwork. When you create those things, really it's for yourself, or do you think that people are going to listen to this and...
I think it's both, for sure, yeah. I do it for myself, and I hope somebody digs what I dig.
What's interesting is another friend of ours, Scott Patterson, he's a great artist, he got a couple of great albums out, and when I mentioned to him about doing something like this, about his album, New Car Smell, which I think is brilliant, he said, you know what, I don't want to go and talk about how great I am for a while. So I wanted to dispel any misconceptions that this was not Byron's idea. I've been asking him to do this for years, and he finally kind of reluctantly said, okay. But now he's really embraced it, because I think it's fun to talk and open up a little bit and find out where those things come from. Where do those ideas come from? For everybody, it's a little different, I would guess.
Yeah, Kristen, your wife, asked me if I like seen any of these episodes that we've done, and I don't know if I will, but it's hard enough for me. So I don't like to talk about myself. This is one of the reasons why Steve has asked me. I usually like to blend in the background, and it's hard enough for me to think about watching me talk about myself for all these episodes. A lot of this, as you can see, is just, it's too much me, and it's just, there's a narcissism that, I try and avoid from watching, but I understand it is important, and there are some people that are curious as to what I do with my time, so it's fine. However, I have, this is the first time I've actually talked with somebody about my stuff, and it's been interesting to go over as far as listening to my music and stuff like that. And I think artistically it has allowed me to look upon myself in a different light, and there's been some nice surprises so far along the way listening to older stuff, and there's been some stuff that I don't like, but I accept, and it's been a good learning experience. I think I consider myself brave to sort of go back and listen to some of this stuff and actually talk about it.
Yeah, it's so over. It's 6 months over. It's so over. Your head. It's so over. 6 months over. It's so over. Your head. Is anybody out there? Anybody home?
So maybe what we'll do is we'll
Play
go
a
back.
song.
We'll go back to the album, yeah, and play the next song. As we say, we're kind of suspecting what the next one is, but we're not totally sure. So I did mention last time there's a lot of little sort of tying clips and sound effects and stuff.
There was, they played that radio thing. Or whatever.
That's right. So I was just thinking that I'm gonna just roll it back a little bit so we can listen to the last bit of Sink or Swim.
Yeah. No, I think it's. I got the
Oh.
T-shirt. I got the T-shirt.
I got.
I
So why don't we just roll it along? I think we're somewhere there, and if I'm wrong, we'll just go bzzz, fast ahead.
Okay, good. Is that the end of the radio thing? Who knows? I don't know. Oh yeah, it is. Right, so that's okay. So what's next?
I was looking at my TV monitor here, and a crowd of splendid visitors of rather curious looking hats out
Sneaking up the runway by their drone, sitting in the meadow, listen to the crickets moan. This is not the opera. This is a perfect night for taking off. Cook the cock like a parachute. Until the death is our way. Kiss a daisy. The prophetic sound. How fast is the submarine? Here come the flying machines. What do you see? with the fireflies. They figure they can cartwheel at best, even acrobatic. This is a perfect night. My goggles bug you up. Supersonic at the speedy sound. Triple decker double movie jazz. Cause I head to the clouds. Here come the flying machines. Look up. And what do you see in the sky? And I live here tonight.
Wow. That's a song called Ground Flying.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. So that's Mike Riley. That's from the Delmer and Cecil.
Radio Kings.
Well, I'm sure he's done many things. He was, Radio Kings. Incredible talent. But that's Mike singing in the chorus and stuff like that.
What a character.
And banjo must have been his buddy Kevin Church. So I'm guessing Kevin was probably, I think he's one of those American bluegrass players that came up and played on...
Clawhammer, banjo player.
Yeah, well, there was him and Dick also played...
Dick Smith.
Yeah, Dick Smith also played...
Interesting, because we know that Bob Bangs is probably 90% the drums in this album. But in this one, he's also credited with background vocals, as well as Mike O'Reilly, as well as J.P. McDonald.
Right, so they're probably all singing the chorus. So Ground Flying is very close to my heart. I mean, I'm looking at some of these lyrics. Some of the lyrics, it's just incredible, just sort of listening to some of the vocals.
It's tiring trying to read them as
I don't know what the hell's
them.
going on, but aerial arabesque is probably a nice little phrase, I think, for sure. So... I lived in the South End growing up, and in the South End of Ottawa was that's where the airport was. So the schools I went to, we had a lot of kids that lived up in the air base. There was a hockey rink up in the air base. So there was always that sort of growing up. We knew that. Also, there were important people that would come by our neighborhood because I remember the Queen in 1970 went down Riverside Drive, and we just lived right near there, so we walked up. And later through the years, they built an airport parkway behind the house I grew up in, and I remember Ronald Reagan, waiting for Ronald Reagan. I remember the Pope. And it was quite an incredible thing to see, because the parkway was always this busy thing, but when these important people would come by, there'd be a point in time where they closed the parkway down, and it'd be very silent for about 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden the helicopters would come up over the horizon, and then you see a gaggle. Would that be a gaggle of motorcycles? Would that be proper?
Sure.
So you see all these motorcycles, and then you see all these black limousines come cruising through. So it was always this exciting place. My grandparents from Scotland took the plane there, and I don't think. Do you remember the first itineration of the Ottawa airport? So if you went to the Ottawa airport, they
what are you talking about?
Well, before so this was, I think, the first. There used to be a museum at the front of the airport. There was a small museum that had some airplanes, but if you went into the airport proper, they had a viewing area out, so you could go outside on the second level and watch the planes come in and land. And at that time, there was no skywalk, so you'd see the people actually coming off the plane. Also, I
don't remember that.
It also had the architecture. So I remember even in high school going up to the second floor, and it had the architecture, that sort of TWA, that very sort of 60s architecture, all the seats. So we used to go, JP, I used to remember, and several other friends that were sort of very creative. And we would go up and just write up at the airport. It was always an interesting. It was a portal onto where you could go anywhere in the world and practically like the universe, right? And seeing people arrive and stuff like that. So
people who shared, I know JP is the same, shared our love of space and all things taken off the earth and leaving and doing something. That was interesting. I wasn't a huge aviation guy, but I loved the idea of things, big things zooming over my head. That was always cool.
Right. So one of the great things that you could do back then, and this is all pretty well before 9/11, was that there at the Ottawa airport, there was a road that basically went around the perimeter of the whole airport. And they used to also have a golf course. So the end of one of the runways was near the end of one of the golf courses, and we used to drive our cars, or even before we could drive, we would take our bikes up and watch the planes take off. And they had a few international flights back then. However,
hence the title.
Well, however, there was a spot in the airport. There was another airport that there was another landing strip. Excuse me. That if you kept driving around the perimeter and went out into the back way, there was a road that went perpendicular to the end of a major runway at the Ottawa airport, and there was fence. There was a fence there, and on one side was the airport and the runway, and on the other side was a farmer's field with a row of landing lights that went out into infinitum. So you could actually, at nighttime, back your car up. There was a spot, back your car up, so the ass end of your car was right up against the fence, and then sort of like the runway would land there. So at nighttime, especially when we took the car, or you can learn how to drive.
It's always at night.
Well, nighttime was the best time because if you stared out into the farmer's field and you had a beautiful night with stars in the summertime, there would be stars out at night. There'd also be fireflies. I always used to remember used to be flying around and stuff like that. But there'd also be these other twinkling things in the sky that would even up with the landing lights, and they would slowly get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you learned to lay on top of your car, and the plane would come in really friggin' low, so low that you'd have to cover your ears. But I was incredibly enamored with the power of an airplane and those engines. And to this day, when I watch plane spotting stuff on YouTube, I cannot get enough of the thrust and the power of those engines.
You've seen this, the 18-wheeler goes behind the jet and just gets tumbled.
Yeah. It is incredible to watch. So we spent many nights out there. So even on Saturday nights, I have memories of, if you got lucky enough, you could bring a girl up and watch the submarine races, and they would have on CBC, definitely not the opera, would be playing, and I always loved to play that because there was something very like melodramatic about having this opera, especially if you could get like a tenor singing at the top of his lungs, just like doing like an aria at a specific time, and the plane's coming over, and it's good that it's like the Berlin Philharmonic or something thundering around. It got quite epic, and it was quite a joy to spend.
Cinematic.
It was quite a joy. We were right into doing that stuff all back then. We spent many nights out there and stuff like that. Yeah,
and that inspired this. So this is a happy memory of childhood.
Yes, and I look at the lyrics, and I think for me, one of the nicest parts of this is the chorus, and it's the line, well, how fast is a submarine? Here comes the flying machines, look up, and what do you see in the sky? And the line is, how do you feel, and how does it feel to fly when you're on the ground? Which I think is a nice little trip. And it's true. It's a great moment when all that stuff's happening and the plane's passing over your head, just about to land. It was a wonderful time. A lot of people knew of that spot. You never availed yourself to that.
No, I moved here in 1982, so I would have been like 21, and I think at that point, when I got here, pretty well, I met up with John Doerr, and we started going into studio land right away. Like, that was our thing.
Did you ever play hockey at the Uplands rink?
No, I think I played in every other rink in Ottawa. Is it a smaller one?
Well, it's a one rink, but it's a very much an Air Force rink, Canadian Air Force rink, because it looks like it's right out of the 50s, the dressing rooms, and you can tell.
It's like a what do they call them, Quonset hut?
Well, no, it's not. The
Remember
dressing
the Bell
rooms,
Arena in the West End?
Yes.
Looks like that.
Just the locker rooms are very, and I think they have pictures, but I think there was
minus 20.
Well, when you went there in the morning, for sure,
that.
it was very, it was extremely cold. But yeah, it looked like something out of the 50s. But also up, we used to drive our bikes up there. There was like a mini golf place, and you used to watch the planes come in. But there was also a drive-in, and I used to remember just before I used to learn how to drive. It was just I get such giggles out of it now. But there'd be this long line of guys watching. The drive-in on a Friday night, because I guess they'd play like blue movies on a Friday night.
Jeez, I remember that back in the day. Yeah, that you'd sit on the ridges in the back of the drive-ins, and you hope you can hear it from all the little speakers out there.
And yeah,
or not or just hang out there and have a beer or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's what we did. But it was most. I just have the vision of pubescent 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds along the fence looking for like a bit of booby action or something.
Yeah, watching Clue.
But it was a wonderful time, and it was always under the stars. I always remember that. So it was upload. So yeah, it was a great place. I still love to go back there, but as you can imagine, right now with 9/11, it's just with the development,
9/11, coronavirus,
yeah,
just everything.
And there's all these
going
houses built out around there. I don't know how they're dealing with all that, but
just to go back to the lyrical content here, I was telling you earlier as a joke, but it almost wasn't a joke. To have to follow along, typically what I find with your lyrical content is it moves very, very easily with the music, very easily. With this one, it's just I don't want to call it awkward, but it's more
it is
angular
awkward.
as far as how you're putting the words to music here.
It's to my ears, it's kind of terrible. I like the chorus. The chorus to me just sort of just flows. But
the first lines of the song, their meter doesn't meet up particularly with the time signature. Like you have to sort of scramble by the aerodrome, like in a way you wouldn't normally do it. It's just interesting. It's a different whole take on.
I think I would almost scrap one of the verses and see if I could spread out like the first verse into two verses, just to make it flow better. To me, it didn't sound good. It just was too forced or whatever like that. But however, the lyrics, if you just look at the lyrics, to my sneaking out the runway by the aerodrome, sitting in the meadow, listen to the crickets
all
moan.
fine.
This is not the opera. This is a perfect night for taking off. I mean, that's beautiful to me.
For sure. No,
I wish
works,
I just would have flowed it, made it flow
it's
better.
just but then again,
yeah,
because this album is a mixed bag of everything. I like that you've done this. I like that you've said, I can just throw words in with syllables that match the music. Here's one where I'm gonna squeeze a little more syllables than there might be space
Too much.
for.
Hanging by a hanger with the fireflies, they figure eight and cartwheel, aerial arabesque, even acrobatic, my goggles fogging up.
And it's funny because it's very good the way that Terry, the graphic designer, put the words in and spread out the kerning of it and all, because it looks like it should sound,
It does.
It sounds like it should look.
But if I'm looking at the next set of lyrics, and I remember when we just played it, how much trouble we both had. So supersonic at the speed of sound, triple-decker double motor jet.
Wow. But when you think of what do you call it? The iambic pentameter? Supersonic at the speed of sound. That one sounds normal when you say it like that. Supersonic at the speed of sound. You go, oh, okay, I get it. It's all obviously very...
It's crazy.
Triple-decker double motor jet. And then she is dizzy with a longer-ish background part.
Too much.
It was very... Well, it's difficult to hear because if you're trying to read it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I can look at it and I go, it's not as effective as it could be. I think there's just too much there. There's too many lyrics for what I was trying to do. I should have edited it into something more listenable, but I didn't. But I do like the chorus. The chorus is fun. I like Mike Riley.
This is your favorite song on the album.
I think I like the lyrics. To me, it's like a poem. If you take out the music, or just keep the chorus and just have me.
Well, do you think it's partly because of that sentimental nature of it, as opposed to? I always think of the musical output. Like, I mean, you know me. I'm not a big lyric guy. I love the mental images that musical passages bring up in my mind, and a voice is one of those musical instruments.
Yeah, I don't. I like a lot of it, but there's a lot that doesn't work for me on this one. It's too bad. The intro of this is very cool, though. It's got a lot of cool sound effects, and I imagine that 5 seconds or 10 seconds you listen to at the start, the cool sound effects, probably took a week or two to coming over, trying things out, speeding things up, using technology we had.
One thing I would ask about too is it's weird. You had the for a song that evokes some old timey music thoughts. You certainly picked up the 1980s Phil Collins gated snare drum on it, on the snare, which was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how it came in. Probably more of a John thing. Sounds like that. I can't really remember. A lot of strange things going on with that for me, for sure. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Again, I'm a sucker for banjo, obviously. A super, standard part, but it just works all the time.
Banjo is great.
I'm always amazed at how good you have to be with your meter, because there is all attack and no decay on a banjo, for all intents and purposes. So your attack has to be perfect. Your right hand, right?
Yeah, seems like such a reasonable instrument for choruses and stuff like that. Just sort of the picking and stuff like that. It really sort of picks up. It's a wonderful and see those guys sort of. It's like the paticos on the banjo. Like I played a bit of banjo in high school for the Dixieland band.
I played a little banjo myself.
No, but it was no picking. It wasn't a 5-string. I believe it was a 4-string banjo, but it was a lot of.
Oh, that's the burlesque one.
Yeah, but there was a lot of right hand stuff, which is hard in itself to be consistent.
Look at Nile Rodgers' whole career. Look at his rhythm patterns with the right hand. It's all right hand. The who am I looking at? Wolfpack. Check out that band for a funky right hand.
Yeah, there's some serious stuff to go on. I mean, you can do it, or I can do it once or twice, but to be consistent and call it up, and especially do these songs where you're, it's an art form in itself. Yeah, so I don't know what the jive wires are doing in this. I can't even hear them. But yeah, I like the lyrics.
There are horns in there. They're not, like front and center like they normally are in some of your songs. But it's a different take on a neat song.
Yeah, who knows what was going on when I did that song. I don't know what was the thing. I can't hear JP, but thank God for Mike O'Reilly. That's all I have to say.
He had the same effect that I think was it Dave Sorokin had in the last song, was it? Or no, Sink or Swim, when he kind of doubled your chorus vocal and had that character voice. Mike O'Reilly is quite the character, right? He had a ton of acting voices, acting chops he could pull up.
Yeah, that CD that they did, the Radio King CD, that was some serious good stuff.
No kidding.
Like the some of the songs were just drop dead good. It's too bad that I guess he didn't get if that's what he wanted.
Well, the thing is, if you look at that traditional American country music, bluegrass music, Ozark Mountain music, you gotta be so good. You watch some of those bands, it's insane. They're 25 and what they can play and stuff. So Mike and Dick.
Insane.
I know. So I'm saying when you aspire to that genre, that's what we want to do. Eek.
Do they still have? Does the public PBS still play Austin City Limits?
Yes, and also the series where, and I'm sorry, I don't know I forgot the name. It's where they play in the Kentucky caves. The bluegrass bands, they play in the Kentucky caves are the biggest in the world, right? But they've got this one auditorium in the cave. We still going? Yeah, just making sure we're still recording. They have a Austin City Limits type thing in a cave with a bluegrass band.
Oh, that must be just profoundly.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the obviously natural reverb, not echo, but you will get echoes in that reverb. But the level of musicianship.
Yeah, so I remember growing up watching Austin City Limits, and so that was sort of a portal onto really good musicians. I remember watching stuff like that. I always remember the day I saw Alison Krauss, and her voice. I think it's almost like one of those voices that you almost just want to pack it up and just
right. And then she can write those songs as well. That's the funny thing.
Yeah, just profound.
Well, and I love watching the proficiency of some guitar players because I can't do it. I rewatched a video of Vince Gill the other day. What a great singer and a writer. And then he played maybe a 15-minute guitar solo where he just shredded like you wouldn't believe. Oh my God! And you're thinking that, and you don't call yourself a guitar player. He's always saying, I'm just this singer, not much.
Yeah, I recently had the same reaction to an old Glenn Campbell, who was who had some hits in the 70s, a great singer.
Oh, he was one of the Wrecking Crew.
He sings, and then all of a sudden he went into this guitar solo, and it was like, my God, the talent is just...
Jerry Reed, we always think he's a funny guy. Jim Stafford, these guys are all just jokesters, but you look at the skills they got, they're mad skills. So that's one song today, but we took up the first half with just talking about your new effort that we're going to hear next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's it called again?
I don't have a title yet.
Good.
Did you have any, should I have a title for it? I hear everybody seems to be doing songs about the virus.
Oh my God. Do you want to get me going?
Okay, go.
Well, it's funny because it really is separating the wheat from the chaff, because what I'm finding on all these online concerts, now, not that I'm about to pull off an online concert, but a lot of the big names that are making a lot of money on their music and their skills, mind you, there are a ton of crazy, mad, skilled people we know, but there are a lot that I'm watching their concerts and going, oh, you could really use some backup right now. It's interesting because it is laying bare. What can you do? Like, I love it because I know I could stick Byron with that acoustic guitar and come back 2 hours later. He'll have a new song. He can do that. There's a lot of people I think that maybe, it's more a popularity contest than anything else. I have an idea in life that everything can be attributed to 3 factors. Everybody's a hypocrite. Everybody is a hypocrite. Number 2, it's a popularity contest. Everything's a popularity contest. So you got to have these 3 things in check. You're a hypocrite, you're popular. And the third, and the most important of all time for all-time superhero, this is it. It's all about the money.
So, have you ever thought about taking those phrases and putting them on T-shirts? Because I have 3 comparable phrases that I would like to put on a T-shirt. You tell me what you think. And I sort of go by these sort of creeds when you talk about human beings. But I think your third one is similar to my first one.
Well, it's so obvious.
Follow the money. That
it overrides everything.
Right. What was the name of the FBI agent that...
Joe Friday.
Deep Throat.
Joe Friday. No, he was L.A. Dragnet.
Yeah, so can you put a T-shirt that just say "Follow the Money" on it? Like, are you taking somebody's? Because I think they'd be rather very popular. Like a "Follow the Money."
Why don't you just go "Money do follow"? See,
could have. That would be good for Japan for bad English.
How about you just have a $sign and go follow?
So I thought of follow the money. Then I thought another good phrase would be I buried Paul. I thought that would be very.
That's not bad. How about I'm with a hypocrite and the arrow pointed this way?
You could put it there. And I also thought, this is from another song from Put It in the Pantry with Your Cupcakes. I think is a very good thing to go by in one's life if one wants to follow the road of happiness. Do you put it in the pantry with your cupcakes?
What are we talking about? What's it?
It's the answer. It's the answer.
I keep the answer right out in full view.
You wouldn't put it? You wouldn't hide it?
Well, aren't you supposed to show everybody the truth?
Well, that is the answer, though, if that's the big question that you want. You keep that with you. Would you put that on a T-shirt?
I don't know, but what I will put in a T-shirt is I'd like to get back to regular life soon, like my regular business and stuff.
Why don't you go out and get a gun and protest? Because that is the right way.
Canada just recently, in the last few days, brought in a new law where they're banning, I heard, like, am I wrong? 150 different styles of assault vehicle weapons.
Can you have a tank? Are you allowed? Like
I think it has to be decommissioned, right? Like they could drop it on your yard, and it wouldn't be able to go anywhere.
What about one of those drones, those Reaper drones?
What's that?
It's got those two missiles from Lockheed Martin or Boeing.
Oh, with the camera, we see them blowing up terrorists and stuff.
Yeah, and you could be right here, just sort of telling it.
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that you probably couldn't.
So okay,
you can't even fly a DJI Phantom around.
So you can have a tank, but so there's 150 things that he wants to ban.
There was a story of a guy in the States who actually built his own tank, an impervious tank, to anything, and he went nuts and he drove through his town like just smashing and running things over. They had to wait for him to run out of gas, I think, before because they could not stop this thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the guy that invented the bear costume, the bear prevention costume. And it was so big that when he climbed in it, he couldn't move or walk, and the bear just mauled him. Yeah.
Did you close it up?
Like
He closed it up, and
well, he had some sort of exaggerated hazmat sort of thing that was all sort of But once he managed to get himself into his said bear prevention costume, I think his expectation was that he could go in the forest and stuff like that. But he had so much stuff on he couldn't walk, and then the bear came and mauled him. But I'm just thinking about your tank analogy.
I think you can have a bear suit anytime you want. Good luck with that. I always thought I would love to go out and prank people with a Bigfoot suit, but I thought I'm going to find the guy that has a gun and go, I'm going to shoot one. And that would be me. So I'm probably going to avoid those kind of pranks. Like if you look online, you can see there's horrible prank videos of people dress up like clowns and they sit in these like, little lonely alleys. And if someone comes in for a smoke or something, they kind of come out looking. I thought that's dangerous.
Yeah, I do that at one of the protests with. Is it good to bring a gun to a protest or an assault rifle?
These are the kind of questions that Byron asks. Expecting someone to answer.
I'm only reading what you told me to read out. What you told me previously.
I'm hoping this thing ends soon, coronavirus, so we can stop this crazy talk about people protesting and wanting to bust into their courthouses and open it up with their AR-15s and whatnot.
We all just get along?
Please, God. Okay, until next time. That was Byron's episode 16.